Hello friends, in our last video we see how to configure interfaces and how to get internet from one link or multiple link, and from if we are getting internet from multiple link, how to do load balancing. In today's video we will see how to create basic objects, services and their groups, and how to work with the net policy, what is net policy and how we can create net policies. So let's log in to the appliance first. Okay, to create net to create first the objects, so there are two ways. First you need to go from network and address object, and same address object you can go through firewall and address object. Both are same, no difference. So when you come to address object, you can click on add. Here you can put the name of the address object like test, or any WAN IP, your cloud server, your any user. So name can be anything. It has no impact, just for your memory. Second is zone assignment. So zone assignment, where that object lies, means if the object you are creating belongs to internet, then it will come in WAN zone. If the object you are creating, if it lies in inside your network, then it will come under the LAN. If it is something like servers or anything and you have DMZ zone, then it is DMZ. So based on the zone where the object belongs, you need to select the zone assignment. For example, we are creating like any object for google.com. Okay, so google.com, we are creating one FQDN. So this FQDN definitely come under the WAN, and the type of the host, it can be host, range, network, MAC, and FQDN. Host is a single IP address. It can be your internal or any WAN IP or any other zone IP address. So when you select host, you just need to type a IP address. Uh, by the way, it's not for google.com, it's just a simple host. So it can be like 1.1.1.1, the IP address. And if you are talking about the range is like 192.168.1.1, 1.2 to 192.168.1.10. So if you are if you are creating any policy where you want to select a number of IP addresses and reduce the workload by creating one by one host, you can just create one range and apply the policy to that range. In place of range, you also can have network. So here you will type the network bit like 192.168.1.0, and subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. So a network net mask, you need to decide how many systems comes under that network. Generally we use many people use 24-bit subnet, that is 255.255.255.0. So complete understanding you can get the subnetting information, we will create some other video where we can cover how subnetting works. So if we are connecting like 256 system, total 256 out of 254 can be used, so we can use this 24-bit net mask. And if it is a if anyone having dynamic IP addresses and you want to have some uh, access list, you can have the MAC address. MAC address, you just need to get that MAC address by like just go to your LAN card. Just go to your LAN card, right click it, status, details. Here you can have this MAC ID address. This MAC ID address you also can get from command prompt ipconfig/all. So there are multiple cards, like we are connecting wireless LAN. So on wireless LAN you can see this MAC ID. So yeah, and also please note MAC ID and the policy you want to create. Always remember, take the MAC address of the card through which user is connected. If it is connected from wireless, take the MAC ID of the WAN card, wireless card. If it is connected through LAN, can take the MAC address of your LAN card. Okay. So in this way, you can create your address object. So as of now, we are creating one FQDN. So let's take it google.com, and that's it. So google.com done. So let's create one yahoo.com. So name and FQDN both can be different. Just to remember, we are keeping it same. So we can have number of address object, and these address object we can add to any group as per our requirement. It's not necessary to add a group. So let's name like FQDN group. So let's take Google and Yahoo. So in this way you have created one group. So this is all with the address object. What we can do with this, you can say, uh, with the firewall, these type of grouping we can do. Okay, so let's go to service object and let's see what services we can create. So services, there are port number. uh, Port number is starting from like 1 to 65,535 ports are there. And out of those ports, there are, if you listen, like it's like if you want to take the remote of any PC, you are hitting on TCP 3389. If you are like doing the taking any accessing any website, you are accessing it over the port TCP 8080 or TCP 443. So number of ports are there. So let's say you are having one applications by default. Every firewall have some default uh, port information like FTP, TCP 21, FTP control port, FTP data port, GRE port used in the VPNs, S323 used in calling, your HTTP port. So multiple ports are by default is there, but if you have some services which is not here by default. You just go to services object and create a address object here. You can have like any let's assume vnc tcp 5900 5900. Similar way you can create any uh, address object here. The protocol can be tcp or udp. Generally these are two uh, protocols on which services are working. Apart from this, if you are having anything, you can just go ahead and create that service. So after creating service, similar way, like you create the address object and add it to a group. Similar way you can have the service group here also. Similar way you can give it a name, and from the left side select the address object and move it to the right side. So this way you can create any service group. So whenever we are making any policy, it requires some basic raw raw material, like your address object and services, your source destination. So your source destination you will create under the address object, and what service will work on that source and destination, that will you will create in service object. So this way you can create any access rule. So let's have a look on the. So let's create one group here. So let's name it browsing services. So here name it like http. We want to give it allow https, https, ftp, ftp, and icmp, and uh, rd rdp. Oh, sorry, it may be. So any service you selected here, okay, you create one service group. So let's see how you will create access rule. Okay, so in when you come to the access rule, so you will see here all from all to all. So from all to all means from which zone to which zone you want to see the access rule. Because if you see here are too many rules, so you will get confused where you are working, what's the priority or where you are putting it. So it will be better, so just click this matrix view, and here choose like we want to create one rule from LAN to WAN. So now what it will do, it will only show you rules which comes from zone LAN to zone WAN. After this, even let's say here are a number of list of uh, number of policies are there. You even filter it, you want to filter it more. Just you can see I want to see only IPv4 rule, so it will not display you IPv6 rule. Here is one more rule. So here you can select like custom. If you select a custom, it will only show rule that is created by you. So so let's move ahead and create one rule for us. We click on add, we give a name like test, and oh sorry, let's take it browsing allow from LAN means from which zone to which zone it is asking. It is by default pick because we select LAN to WAN in matrix view. Source port, maximum cases it will remain any, because source port will be random, always remain random. Service, we select services, we create browsing services here, and in source we keep like any, or we can have like x0 subnet. So in x0 subnet, what it will do, it will choose your complete x0 interface subnet. Here also you can have a specific number of users who come under this policy. You can have that by creating address object and creating a group. In destination, you want to put, like we created like fqdn group. So it will, let's say if we choose this fqdn group, so this rule will only applicable if users are going to google.com and yahoo.com. Okay, so let's keep it here like any. So this rule will allow these services which we select in browsing services for x0 subnet users. So this way we can create policies for our office. So these access rule, and now we what we have covered, the access rule, your how to create address object and how to create services. So after that, let's have a look on net policies. To create the net policies for the beginners, so I would say for the beginners, what you can do, you can simply just go to this wizard. But before going this wizard, have some data ready. So what data you require? You require public IP address, means from outer world what IP address you are hitting to access your internal network. Second is your service, or you can say port number, or numbers, or any group. After that, the private IP of server, means let's say you are having one web server, internal web server, which is hosted on 192.168.0.0.100. Okay, so and you want to access it through 182 public IP, 182.71.56.134. Okay, and the services, because it is web server, so it will be accessed on 80 or 443 TCP port. Okay, so before running that wizard, let's create services first. It's not server, it's services. Okay, so let's create services, and let's name that like web server service, and have a group web server. HTTP and HTTPS are default policy, default rule we are not creating. Otherwise, we can create and select it here. So for the beginners, it's best just go to the wizard. After getting the basic detail, click on the third option, public server guide. Here, for the web server, its default server type is there. If it is not there, because it's three or four option it is giving, and but you can have an any type of server inside your network and you want to access it over the internet, so you just go to the other and select the services. So we create web server. Okay, so the both are same here. If we choose the web server or the web server we created, both are the same, not a, it's not a difference. Then we click on next. Now it's asking for your server private, means your internal server detail. So we name it web server. Its IP address 192.168.0.100. We click on next, and the IP address it is picking default because it's applied on interface. If it is not there, if it's a IP from any LAN pool IP, you can just type it here, and after clicking on apply, rule will be created for you. So let me show you how it will look like. So here it's showing three web for web server, one rule for internal servers, internal network, one rule for server itself, and one for the traffic which is coming from the internet. Let me explain you why these three rules are here. So only generally this rule number 3 is required, where customer want to allow external users, means the outer world user, to access their servers. But some at some places internal company users want to access your server through the public IP. So it's creating a loop. So avoiding, if we don't create this rule, it will not allow that. It will deny this traffic because loop is generally not okay. So if internal user are trying to access public server through public IP, then this firewall subnet rule is required, where it's saying internal users hitting the if internal users sources our internal users, it will translate it to our public IP, and they are hitting the public IP itself, transfer them to your server for server services. Similar way, in place of firewall subnet, that web server private rule is there, where they are hitting the public IP address and again by creating a loop come into your network. So these are the NAT policies created for a single server. After that, as of now, we are deleting this one. Okay, we will delete it later. So firewall access rules, and in access rules, if you see from WAN to LAN, one rule also came here for web server services. Okay, so automatically this rule will came here. So when you run a wizard, you will create for rule in single one step, and you have no problem in creating the access rule or the NAT policies. So in our next video I will further deep down the NAT policies we create here. Okay, I hope you find this video helpful to you. Thank you for watching. If you have any question, put in the comment, I will reply it back. Okay guys, thank you.